Within the project, Capacity Buildings for Business and Training School in Vocational Skills Development. This is a pilot model conducted in Vietnam. In this project, employees play a key role in ensure the skill standards under needs of the employer in accordance with regional and international standards, thereby improving productivity and competitiveness of enterprises. ProSkills organization had conducted survey into training programs, curriculum and instructional materials in Vocational College of Vietnamgocnhin1006, a training unit that had participated in intensive training courses in the UK. Experts from ProSkills continue survey at the plants in several related fields such as glass manufacturing, ceramic wall tile and sanitary ware to learn about practical skills, demand and actual capacity of the labor. Hello everyone, and you're watching Sharing Vietnam on VTC 10 Net Viet. With today's program, we welcome Mr. Jonathan from ProSkill, and he will share with us what he has observed from Vietnamgocnhin1006, the pilot project that ProSkill will do for improving the skills of the labor in terms of improving the capacity of enterprises in Vietnam. Thank you, Mr. Jonathan, for joining Sharing Vietnam today. Can you share with us a little bit more about what you guys do and what are the customers that you guys usually partners with?
Thank you, and it's lovely to be in Vietnam, and it's great for ProSkills to have the opportunity to share its experience. ProSkills has been around for 10 years, and at the moment we look after 10 different sectors, industry sectors within the UK. So we look after organisations in the building products industry, in the mining industry. We also look after employers in print and paper, furniture, wood, health and safety, coating, so that includes paint and such like. So we have quite a wide remit, and we are a UK government recognised body that was established to set up really vocational skills programmes within employer workplaces, and what we wanted to try and do was to get employers more involved in that process, for them to part fund those activities and to drive up skill levels, leading to better productivity and more output from all the organisation in terms of quality. We also have a schools programme, so we have the UK's largest schools programme, which is designed to get youngsters, whilst they're at school from 12 years old onwards, to be excited about working in the glass industry or in building product.
And why is Vietnam is the appropriate market for ProSkills to done some research and also having cooperations between Vietnamese enterprise and your company?
It's a really good question. We've been here once before, and we were working with Vietnamgocnhin1006 in the mining sector, because one of our sectors in the UK is mining. So we've come here this time to be working in the building or construction products scenario. Now, Vietnam at the moment doesn't have the same infrastructure in place that we have in the UK, and it's always looking forward to try and develop its people and into a much more dynamic, much more innovative, and we believe that the UK model, the transferable part of the model, is ideal for what Vietnam is trying to do. So in that process, what we are doing is to bring our experience, share our mistakes, share our good things that we've learned over 20 or 30 years of doing vocational skills, and see if Vietnam can take all of the good things and develop something that fits Vietnam. What we're not interested in doing is to bring the UK over to Vietnam and implement the UK in Vietnam. And we want Vietnam to use some of that experience to grow its own system, so that in the future it doesn't have to worry about bringing the UK to Vietnam to help. Vietnam can do it for itself.
And for this pilot program that you would like to implement in Vietnam, how do you assess about Vietnamgocnhin1006 as the first companies in this pilot program?
We've been here a week now, and in a week we've gone to 6 of their sites, and we've had quite an intense session with them, looking at how they build on vocational skills, so how they train their staff, how they assess the quality of their staff, but also how they use vocational skills in the induction process and in the recruitment. And so far, Most of the sites we've been to have been training their staff, and the quality of the training is variable, so it means that some sites are better than others, and some sites look after their people in terms of assessment. They do assessment quite well, but they don't record it maybe so well, or they don't use the information once the observation has been done. So in all of the sites, they were all different, and if you drew a line and this end was quality and this end was not so good, there was one company that sat at the top end, and then they were dotted all the way through that line. So it's quite variable, and our role here is to help Viglacera create a system whereby every single site, things are done the same way, that they're standardised, that they're of high quality, that the trainers are good, that the assessors are good, that the content is good, and that they have a robust system that really makes a difference to the business.
So before we continue on with our talk, we want to invite our viewers at home to look at the following report and see what are the things that ProSkill would be doing in Vietnam. After the survey process, ProSkills will start research and development of training strategies, enhance training effectiveness for the pilot enterprise Viglacera. With the first model implemented in Vietnam, ProSkills aims to achieve the new training program with accreditation standards by the NSA ProSkills, quality standards of the UK and internationally. The faculty teachers in Vocational College of Viglacera trained to deliver the new curriculum. The faculty will also be recognized by NSA ProSkills, and to lay the foundation for pilot enterprise to achieve vocational specifications of the UK and internationally.
Cái chuẩn kỹ năng này nếu mà áp dụng ngay ở Việt Nam thì chắc của Việt Nam cũng còn phải cố gắng nhiều những cái điều kiện cơ sở để đáp ứng. Thế nhưng mà tóm lại là nó rất bổ ích cho những người làm công tác đào tạo. Nó giúp cho hoàn thiện được cái chương trình đào tạo, nó hoàn thiện được cái vai trò và cái kỹ năng của người làm nghề đào tạo, đấy là giảng viên.
Coming back to our talk today, and we would like to continue on with the assessment about the skills of the labor in Viglacera, specifically, as well as other Vietnamese enterprise that you have cooperated with.
You have a really good technical capability already. There are always extra things we could all learn. Some of the sites that Viglacera has, they're very advanced, and it takes a lot to be able to deliver that technically. So we'll be looking at the technical content. Viglacera is very lucky; it has a vocational college, and we want the college to work much better with its employers and the sites that are within the Viglacera group. So it's not just about the material; it's about the system as well within the group.
So as you have mentioned before, that there are some kind of shortage in the Vietnamese companies, and what are those things is, and how will this program of ProSkills will fill those gap and fill up those shortage?
We have lots of examples that we have from our 17 countries that we work with, and we'll certainly be sharing all of those experiences with Viglacera. We've already started some of that work, so during the course of each of the meetings that I had with managers and the teams at the companies last week, we already began to share some of those ideas that we had, because there are lots of things that Viglacera can change without making big problems for themselves. They can just do it at the managerial level. They don't need the big group to tell them how to do it. There are some very small adjustments. We'll work with the colleges and the employers within the Viglacera group to map out the training programmes to make sure that we develop some national standards. And what we really want is, if there are companies that belong to Viglacera in the north of Vietnam and in the middle and the south, we want them to all operate the same way in terms of vocational skills. So if you're in a management job in the north of Vietnam, it should be the same standard that you reach as in the south of Vietnam. And at the moment that doesn't exist. The standards are all over the place.
It seems to be like a really long process, so would there be any difficulties in all the journey of applying this program of ProSkills?
It is a long process. It will not happen overnight, and it will normally take somewhere around a year just to get the system ready. And then obviously there is 3 or 4 years maybe of a longer program before Viglacera and Vietnam get used to the new system. But the biggest problem is culture. And what we look at in the UK is lifelong learning. So from the age of 16 all the way through to 80 or 90 years old, we like people to continue to learn. Here in Vietnam, it seems to be, particularly in the Viglasera group, that you leave your university, you do your on-site learning at work, but it's not really lifelong learning in the same way that we think about it in the UK. So we hope that by sharing that and changing that culture, that they will recognise that the skills that you and I learn at work every day in our lives are just as valuable as the ones we get from high school, college or university. So if the business wants to produce more or produce higher quality or to be faster, to be the best, to deliver excellent customer service, then the training strategy should tie into and reflect those ambitions of the organisation. Otherwise, the question is, how is it going to do that if the people don't do better? So that's what we're working with. So it's culture and policy really are the two difficulties. The skills, we can bring those in from wherever we need to help with the technical side or the soft side.
And would there be any barriers and difficulties in terms of the cost?
So we had a vocational skills budget of £1 billion per year in the UK, so a big budget. Vietnam recognises already that it won't be able to do everything that we do in the UK, or it might not want to do everything that we do in the UK, which is more important. So we will build a system that is kind of self-generating.
And for companies that have achieved the standards of PERS skills, what are the opportunities that the Vietnamese enterprise will be open up with?
It's good for Vietnam in export of skills as well as it is for incoming skills. So it really helps the migration and the balancing. And most companies, of course, are dealing with international marketplace, a global marketplace, and sometimes customers in China or maybe in Europe want to know how well qualified your team are, and they will understand 8 levels of qualification or 12 levels, but at least they can benchmark it accordingly to those international standards. So really quite exciting times actually, because it'll be the first time that Vietnam's been able to match what it does with the rest of the world.
And lastly, what are some markets or fields in Vietnam that you guys have been looking at and would interest in future cooperations?
I've been talking to British Council, the ambassador, just to really understand what other key targets there are in terms of industries and how best we can support them. And the idea is that this project may well provide the template for all other sectors. Is whether we get to the point where we run this pilot for a year, we learn the lessons, we then call all the other industries together in Vietnam, we share those ideas and we come up with one template so that others can do things in the same way, even though it will be different for each of their industries because of the type of task that they carry out or the type of industry that they are.
Thank you, Mr. Jonathan, so much for all of your valuable sharing today.
It's my pleasure, and it's a great country and we'll be pleased to be here.
Thank you so much for watching us. Any questions and recommendation, please send an email to sharingvietnam@vtc.vn. Thank you and see you again.
Trong suốt nhiều thế kỷ, Văn Miếu là nơi thánh địa nho học tôn nghiêm. Cổng Văn Miếu mang nhiều nét độc đáo của kiến trúc cổ Việt Nam.